Good morning. Quite an action-packed day. As expected, the all-party meeting on Delhi repeated the promises made by Home Minister Amit Shah earlier on, whether it was in terms of ramping up the testing capabilities of Delhi quite dramatically, whether it was building more hospital bed capacity for the city, which is reeling under the lack of capacity right now. But these are promises. What are the chances that they will be fulfilled? We'll come to that in a minute. But first, some other spot news, some of which is quite disturbing. The rapid growth of cases in Chennai has led to the city government there, to the state government there, declaring another lockdown. So, Chennai used to be growing at about 426 cases a day in May. I mean, the fresh cases, they were about 426 fresh cases a day in Chennai in May. And this rose to, in the first 15 days of this month, to 1176. So that's a dramatic increase. As we talked about before, Chennai and Delhi are now equaling Mumbai when it comes to the number of new cases. The other big problem is in Mumbai. We saw today that about 451 deaths have not been reported. So Bombay has about 2,200 or 300 deaths and 415 not being reported. So that's a fairly substantial jump and a gap in the way data is recorded in Mumbai, and Delhi is not much better. Our lead graphic today is a very disturbing one. Essentially, it shows you India's response to COVID. We've had endless lockdowns from March 24th, and we were always told that these lockdowns are about pushing the curve back to give us time to prepare, to do the hospital beds, to do the ventilators, the ICUs, and things like that. Yeah. So essentially, it's a sad picture for Delhi, for Mumbai, for the country as a whole. In just the last 45 days, just to take the last 45 days, not from March 24, but from April 30th, the number of cases in India has grown 9.5 times. So 9.5 fold increase in the number of cases, but the number of hospital beds rose by just about 3 times, and the number of tests rose by around 7 times. Now this is far worse for major cities like Delhi, which are really the hotbeds of corona in the country. So in the case of Delhi, for example, from April 30th till now, the number of cases rose almost 12 times, 11.7 or something like that, but almost 12 times is the number of cases. But the number of tests rose just 5 times, and the number of hospital beds just around 3.2 times. And this is when the positivity rate, basically the new tests, the new cases upon the new tests, when the positivity rate in Delhi used to be about 6% in April, around the end of April, it's about 30% now. So you would think that the center and the state would want to be testing a lot more. They'd be wanting to build up a lot of capacity. But essentially, both the central government and the state government seem to have slept. Chief Minister Kejriwal, always known to be a politician, has performed very, very badly, as our lead article today points out. And whether it was, he for example would be talking about how outsiders would be coming and occupying Delhi's beds. Whereas, he never ever spoke about the awful situation in the hospitals that he ran, the Delhi government ran. So, I mean, of course, Delhi has a peculiar problem. It's a half state. So, Mr. Kejriwal or any chief minister for that matter doesn't really have full powers. So, the central government is also to blame. But certainly, some part of the blame, a large part of the blame, has to rest on the shoulders of Mr. Kejriwal. As we've discussed many times before, the original sin of the lack of testing or the limited amount of testing in India is actually the ICMR guidelines. ICMR is the central government organization. So the original problem lay with the ICMR, which had very restrictive guidelines in terms of testing asymptomatic people. And while Mr. Kejriwal, tried to further make those guidelines even more restrictive, the fact is that even now, the Home Minister Amit Shah or anybody in the central government has not removed that restrictive ICMR guideline. Until that is done, it is difficult to see how really the government in Delhi is going to be able to ramp up testing in the way that the Home Minister has promised it. Just to cite one number on the occupancy rates that I was talking to you about, the Delhi government hospitals, the occupancy rate is a mere 32%. 32% essentially because Delhi government hospitals don't have enough nurses, enough doctors, and the occupancy rate, just to put this in perspective, is around 80% for central government hospitals and about 70% for private sector hospitals. So if Home Minister Amit Shah, who now seems to have taken control of Delhi, if he has to deliver, he has to pull out several rabbits from his hat. For example, clearly he needs to have a lot more hospital beds there. So the Delhi, if you go by the estimate given by the Delhi government, needs about 88,000 proper hospital beds by July 31st. There aren't that many beds even with the private sector. So even if you commandeer private sector beds from hospitals, that isn't going to do the trick. Your hotels will not give you hospital beds; they'll give you at most quarantine centers. So that doesn't solve the problem. Whether Mr. Shah likes it or not, he will have to call out the army, have to be asked to make it field hospital. But essentially, as our second article today by former bureaucrat Gajendra Haldia points out, essentially we are leading the COVID war. We are fighting a war, a COVID war, and there's no general in charge. So that's a serious problem. And the second problem that Mr. Amit Shah is going to face is really that of doctors and nurses. We already have a crippling shortage of doctors and nurses in the country, in the capital, and now if you're going to increase the number of hospital beds to 88,000 by the end of July, Mr. Amit Shah is going to be hard pressed to be able to figure out, where to get those extra doctors and nurses. A related point here is that Mumbai's response to COVID has always been problematic in the sense that even now, despite all the capacity that is being created, it's running, hospitals there are running at about 89, 90, 95%, capacity utilization. I think ICUs are at 99%. But the one thing that everybody seems to acknowledge is the hard work that the municipal authorities in Bombay have done when it comes to checking the spread of the disease in the slums. Keep in mind that when the infection reached Dharavi, everybody said now it's going to spread like wildfire, and for some reason it hasn't. In fact, we have a Bloomberg report which basically talks about how the municipal authorities in Mumbai, in Dharavi itself, they knocked on 47,000 doors and they scanned 7 lakh people. That's about 70% of the population of Dharavi. So the Mumbai authorities scanned 700,000 people. So that's the kind of work that we need to do in Delhi. Now, the Home Minister Amit Shah, during various elections, is supposed to be the master of booth management. He has BJP workers monitoring every booth, getting voters to vote and things like that. So whether he's going to be able to pull off something like that with BJP workers or with AAP volunteers is not clear. But if he wants to do contact tracing of the type that is needed to prevent the infection from spreading even faster, he will need to do something like that. If we needed any proof, moving away from Corona, if we needed any proof that the current collapse in the economy is not something new, it's not a Corona-driven thing. Corona just speeded the process. But this collapse has been going on for a long time. Our second lead story gives you enough examples of precisely that. For 6 state governments for which we have data for the full year, we basically seen a 7.6% fall in state government capex, and this grew by about 10.5 or 11% in FY19. For 14 states, we don't have data for the full year. We have it for 11 months. For those 14 states, the government capex is absolutely flat, and it grew at about 20% in FY19. So essentially, the economy was in deep trouble even before Corona came. Corona just speeded up, which brings us to the question: how easy is it going to be to get growth back in FY22, and how sustainable will it be? Now, clearly, if you're going to grow at, if you're going to contract by -5%, getting some kind of growth back in FY22 is not difficult yet. But the question is, how sustainable will that growth be? I think what Corona has done with the fear of job losses, salary cuts, I think the consumer boom or the consumer sort of boost to the economy is going to be over for a very long time. The government's record in implementing reforms has been quite poor. In fact, as we've documented in so many cases, the government has actually been very, very anti-investor in many ways here. So those two major drivers of growth are over. The export boom is unlikely with the world economy the way it is. So the only hope that we then have is government consumption. And frankly, with taxes collapsing, there's not much hope for government spending to grow either. So the big thing then has to be a deficit. Government has to be borrowing a lot from, the IMF, the World Bank, ADB, a lot of people like that, and come up with a big infrastructure-led plan for the next 4 or 5 years. In fact, that is really what the infrastructure pipeline that Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman had unveiled some months ago. That's really what that was. That was a big public sector-driven capex plan So that's really what India needs. The problem with that capex plan was that it needs a lot of reforms in sectors like power, and frankly, that hasn't happened. And apart from a few people in the government, there are very few people outside who believe that this is going to be India's 1991 moment. Remember when Corona came, everybody said there's going to be big reform. This is like 1991, but we're far from that. At least so far in the last few months, we haven't seen the government, show the kind of urgency that it needed to reform. Tata Motors has just declared almost a 10,000 crore loss in Q4 alone. So that tells you a little bit about what's going to happen to India Inc.'s capex. There is some action, as our stories show. I mean, DLF, for example, has started doing revenue share pacts for tenants. So there's some activity back in the malls. But it's going to be a long haul. We still need to see whether consumer spend is going to grow here. A nice story is after work from home, Kerala is starting what they call work near home. So, whether it's the houseboats or whether it's, other empty buildings, essentially what the government there is trying to do is to create co-working spaces so that the IT professionals particularly can start working from near their house. So we've got to see how that goes because as we've already seen co-working spaces, co-working firms across the world and in India are doing very badly. So it's not clear as to whether the Kerala government plan is going to work. What the Kerala government is telling us is that essentially you need to move your work closer to where workers live. And while that's still possible in sectors like IT, it's going to be very, very difficult to do it in the manufacturing sector. But that will need to be done. So that's something that India Inc. is probably trying to wrap its head around. And you can be sure that over the next few weeks, over the next few months, there will be some moves in that direction. Because if that doesn't happen, if India Inc. is not able to move work closer to where the workers are, you're going to have an odd situation. You're going to have wages collapse in rural India because there are too many workers out there. And you're going to have wages rising in urban India, which can then, slow down the recovery to whatever extent there is. An absolutely must-read article today is that on the op-ed page of Financial Express by former TCS Vice Chairman S. Ramadorai along with Arvind Singh. Basically, this is on the high-tech opportunities that await India in the health sector. Now, the problem we know in the health sector, Dr. Devi Shetty, Dr. Srinath Reddy have been pointing this out for years. Basically, we over-medicalize, the thing. Even nurses cannot even prescribe, crocin and things like that. We don't allow, we don't. Anesthesia has to be given by doctors. The nurses can't give it. We have our engineering, our colleges, our medical colleges are over-engineered. They require too many doctors. They require too much equipment, which basically makes medical education very expensive. So these are issues that these eminent doctors have talked about in the past. We've talked about them. We've covered them in Financial Express earlier on. But what Mr. Ramadorai and Mr. Singh do is they get part of this, get past this, and they talk about some truly fascinating tech inventions or innovations rather. Some of these are already in use by the Arvind Eye Care Center, Shankar Nethralaya. So we've seen them before. What this article does, it talks about the need to increase capacity for local capacity, whether it's PPE or masks or things like that. I have some very interesting figures here in terms of the growth that we've seen. I think the Prime Minister also mentioned this in one of his speeches to the nation. In the case of PPE, for example, we produced about 6 million pieces before the Corona crisis, and we're doing about 215 million today. Now, these are of somewhat uneven quality. They're not all top class, but that's a massive improvement that we've got. So the article talks about that. Then it gives some very nice innovations, nice examples of innovations, which will stand us in good stead in the time to come. O2matic, for example, is an oxygenator, basically an oxygen creating machine. But unlike the ones that we are all scrambling to buy nowadays, this one doesn't use power at all. So it's going to be tremendous use in rural areas. And there's Niramai. Niramai is basically a portable, non-invasive breast cancer scanning solution. Caligo technology applies artificial intelligence and algorithms which basically help you diagnose images with of CT scans and X-rays and come up with what diseases is. Now this has tremendous applications because India has a huge shortage of radiologists. So if you're looking at interpreting scans and especially in rural areas, this is really the kind of work that this is the kind of innovation that we need, and it's going to stand India in good stead. So the battle against Corona, as we've seen, has reached another decisive phase because suddenly the growth rates in places like Delhi are spiking up again, and our political class we don't know, our political class may just be ready to finally start responding properly, and our techies, as we're seeing, are coming up with some fascinating solutions there. Will we make it, or have we left it too late? And in case the situation of letting the crisis reach overwhelming proportions before we start acting on it looks familiar, well, it's called the Great Indian Wedding. So fingers crossed. Have a great week ahead. There's just 4 more days left for the weekend. So have fun, enjoy. Thank you.